I once had a woman complain about lines on Black Friday and sit on the floor in protest. Retailer workers of Reddit, what is your best worst Black Friday story? Does anyone else think someone should make a nature-style documentary about this crap? Find them all. Talk a dozen stores or so into participating. Fit as many registers and employees with hidden cameras as possible, and let the madness unfold. Bonus points if roaming camera crews can get actual interviews with the maniacs after they've left the premises. Worked for a small and independent video game store. We had a great rapport with the regulars. On Black Friday we were out of PS2s, launch year, early in the morning. People were angry. A cool as ice regular who bought one earlier and came back for a memory card walked on in. Saw what was happening, grabbed the PS2 box out of his car, walked in with it held above his head and shouted, "They have them at Sears." The store cleared out of everyone wanting just the core system. Sears never got their shipment. God, that is awesome. Working at a mall on Black Friday as a teenager, my store manager scheduled 2 people to man the store until 11 AM. Came in and wondered why the store was a mess with a line wrapped around the store. My co-worker stood on the counter and announced to the store that this man was the genius that only scheduled 2 people because in his words Black Friday is just media hype. We were also robbed blind, what with not being able to leave the registers. Man, your manager is special. A lady called 911 because we wouldn't price match with Best Buy. The police came and arrested her for misusing the emergency service. This gave me a Black Friday boner. Thank you. Was working at a clothing store and we were slammed all day. A customer overheard my manager say I couldn't take lunch and to work through it. She came back with sandwiches for me and my co-workers, plus drinks. A small story of human redemption among today's tales of horror. Today, one of our male customers hit another male customer upside the head with a crock pot. What were they fighting over? The crock pot. Both customers had to be dragged out of the store by the police. Even though I worked at Walmart for almost 11 years, I somehow avoided the worst of the Black Friday crowds. Still, here are some highlights. Cart stealing. Every dang year. Never put a doorbuster item in your cart and turn your back. Cops arresting someone for stealing a cart with a woman's purse in it. Layaway lines that stretched almost 3/4 of the perimeter of the store. People would try to sneak into line and nearly get beaten by the people behind them. Customers asking electronics associates if they'll watch their kids so they can shop. Happened more than once. Multiple workers reduced to tears by customers literally screaming at them, including a poor 18-year-old girl that was called an ignorant W because the store ran out of Game Boys. More than one of these people were thrown out of the store. A guy that bought 2 Tickle Me Elmo dolls, then waited until the store was sold out. He stood in the parking lot trying to sell it for like $300. His 10 or 11-year-old stood just behind him holding a bat, just in case. By far the best was 3 grandmothers getting into a literal fist fight over the last Furby. A full-on brawl, rolling around on the floor, kicking and punching. Nobody knew what to do. It took 2 women and a manager to pull them apart. It was the most screwed up thing I've ever seen. I worked in home theater at a Best Buy in Southern California in 2006. We had this really crappy Pioneer home theater in a box, Hatib, that retailed normally for $200. It was on sale for $150. We had literally 500 in stock. They were freaking everywhere. In every aisle of home theater, in the overstock, warehouse, floor shelves, overhead storage, everywhere. We had a few pallets on the racetrack that we would keep stocked as best we could throughout the day. Well, as happens on BF, we got busy and the pile dwindled so there was only one on the pallets. Never mind that anyone with eyes can see we have hundreds more around. Only one on the pallet must be the last one in the store. Well, this lady grabs it and puts it in her cart. Some guy was clearly moving for it but was beat. Lady is oblivious. So she turns Sona movie aisle and proceeds to look through one of the bins filled with random 2.99 DVDs. The dude sneaks up behind her and lifts the tip off her cart and starts to walk off. He gets about 10 feet before this very large older man, early 50s I'd guess, says no you don't mother sucker and delivers him a square punch. More of a jab really, in the jaw. The would-be thief falls into one of the DVD shelves and drops the hatib. The older guy then picks it up, puts it back on the lady's cart. She's still oblivious and walks away as the thief, who was clearly shocked and confused more than injured, stands up. He sees me and my co-worker staring at him bewildered, each holding more of the hot tib units he was trying to steal in our arms as we were just restocking the pallet. The guy stands up, walks over, grabs one, and walks away without saying a word. That was about the best I've ever seen. I worked 4 Black Fridays in all and never saw anything more bizarre and outrageous than that. Not retail, but I used to work at a local pizza and be a place that's pretty well known around my city. A lady comes in for lunch, exhausted from having been at the stores and completely incapable of going more than 5 seconds without telling anyone within earshot how dedicated to shopping she was and how much money she was saving. She proceeds to ask me what our Black Friday specials were. Well, we are a pizza shop. We did have a lunch special every day, so I told her what it was. This was apparently too much for her to handle. She proceeds to lose her freaking mind, shrieking at me about how she has been up since before dawn and everyone else in America has a Black Friday special. So why don't we? I don't think the South Park episode had aired yet, but she ended her rant with, "I thought I was in America. I am still in America, right?" That was the second customer I ever told to F off while working at that establishment. That was also the 1000th time I realized that while working in restaurants can be awful, at least I wasn't working retail. Similar, had someone throw all of their items to the ground because of the weight. Other customers quickly picked up the sale items and the customer was not missed. Also had some Red Bull reps show up a case of Red Bull for everyone at the store. Made the day more bearable. That's actually a pretty brilliant marketing plan by Red Bull to get more people drinking their product. I was pretty amazed by how smoothly our sales went at GameStop at midnight. We had a line, but everybody was very pleasant and thanked us workers for being open. Yeah, my Black Friday experience at GameStop was the best retail experience I've ever had. They were letting people in early, so I was out of there before midnight. In my store, we had a line set up, going from when you enter the store you enter the line, which is near the entrance, and then this line will span all over the store, so you will be able to pick up any item without leaving the line. A woman stormed into the shop with an empty shopping cart and her 2 small children. She pushed through the line with the huge cart, elbowing everyone to the side so her and her children could get past. She went to the electronics section and picked up about 50 DVDs, then pushed to the last register, which was quite hard to reach, since you had to push through 8 different lines, and then just stood there and waited. She waited until someone was not paying attention enough, and then quickly just took the spot and put her stuff on the register. We had a 16-year-old boy in said register, and he had to tell her that this was not the way things worked. She demanded to talk to a manager, so one of our managers came over and explained to her what she did wrong. She explained that she thought the line was too long, so she took the spot because the guy behind her was not paying attention enough, and she didn't want to wait in the line. Our manager told her to either get back in the line or out of the store, and then she slapped him. Yes, she open-handed slapped him. I got a little angry even hearing this, but he retaliated and slapped her back. She screamed and called for security. The security laughed at her. After the members of the line backed our manager up, and she and her kids was escorted out the store. I should also mention it took quite some physical force to actually get this woman out of the store. She tried coming back and doing the same thing another register twice. My one Black Friday at Best Buy was nothing special, but I did learn something about people and herd mentality. This would have been 2004. And portable DVD players were a big thing that year as they were just getting cheap enough to be a oh, I could use one of those kind of buy. Anyway, BB had a cheap portable DVD on sale and my store had 2 skids of the things right in the middle of the aisle from the front door to the home theater department. Impossible to miss. Behind the skids was another skid of carrying cases. My manager walked me over to it and said, "Okay, well, child, your job is to just stand here and hand a case to everyone who take a DVD player. Don't ask if they want it, just give it to them." Now, note that the cases were not on sale. My shift that morning was opening 4 AM to 8 AM. I did that, and only that, all morning. No one ever turned me down. People probably dropped $5,000 that morning because some seasonal guy handed them some crap and said you'll need this too. I'm sure other employees found those cases stuffed into every nook and cranny between you and the checkout line. I once had a woman scream for security BC she tried to grab a pair of shoes out of someone else's hand and they told her to frick off. She was just so indignant. I had this happen today. Where I work we're open at 9 PM Thanksgiving Day and don't close until 11 PM Black Friday. I was a line queer, which means I direct people to the end of the line and let people go to the register when it is empty. We only have one register in electronics. A woman stood behind the person at the register and my line was already 200 long, so I went up to her and said, "If you're ready to check out, our electronics line actually starts back here." Her reply, "So? I want to check out now." "I understand, ma'am. Everyone else here wants to check out as well and the people you would be cutting in front of have been waiting for an hour plus. Open more registers." Then all of our registers are open, including our pharmacy. There are over 1,500 people in the store right now and we are moving as fast as we can. It continued for a good 5 minutes until she rammed her cart into my stomach and stormed out. People are so stupid. Stories like this make me want to dress in a Batman costume and roam shops on Black Friday. Every time a person, read, man, woman or child, assaults an underpaid retail assistant, I'll put them down with a swift kick to the neck. In the UK, Black Friday usually refers to the last day that offices works before Christmas. Not always a Friday. People start drinking in the office, knock off about noon and go to the pub indefinitely. Fun times for bar staff. Always drunken buttholes about. I was working in a Best Buy at a large Midwestern mall a few years ago. There was a sale on 32 inches flat panel TVs for $199, which was extremely cheap at the time. The store was mobbed, and the checkout lines were insanely long. Not only that, but the server for the credit card verification was having trouble and it was taking a long time to run cards. I estimate it was taking more than an hour and a half to check out. A very obese black woman, wearing nothing but a t-shirt, red tights, and heels, was waiting in line with one of the TV sets in her cart. She was by herself. The people standing near her began to curse and back off. Some even left the line. It turns out she had to take a huge dump, but refused to leave the line, so she let it go in her red tights. The smell was beyond imagination. It could make you gag and vomit in your mouth. You could see the fesses lumped around her anus in the tights, no underwear, and liquid dripped out onto the floor. She refused to leave the line. Finally, the manager escorted her to the front, making him sick and turn green, let her pay, and she left the store. The stench lingered for days. I worked in a smaller retail store that only had 4 registers. Black Friday comes and lines for the registers are to the back of the store. Woman in line complains that the lines are too long and we need to do something. I tell her that all registers are open. She calls me a liar and gets out of line to prove I'm wrong. Walks to the front, sees all registers open, then wants to get back in line. I inform her that she left the line and would have to go to the back. My own little Black Friday victory. Nice one. Hate these types of people. Although I do not work retail, but I work in a part of town that has the Best Buy, Target, a Walmart, the mall, a large sporting goods store, a GameStop, a Staples, and an Old Navy, all within 4 square miles. I've watched a guy plow through a crowd with his truck. Several years ago I worked at a Best Buy while in college. It was Black Friday and one of our door crasher deals was a piece of crap DVD player that was going for dirt cheap. Note, DVD players were still fairly expensive at the time. A man in a wheelchair gets one and is trying to navigate to the massive checkout line. Some butthole comes up to him, grabs the DVD player off his lap and does a bit of a football side shuffle type of thing. Like he's shuffling his feet trying to determine his best course of escape. And just bolts it for the checkout line and cuts in somewhere in hopes of blending in. I saw the whole thing go down and was just shocked. I quickly go to the back and find one of the DVD players that a buddy of mine had stashed to buy at the end of his shift. Told him the story. He was more than happy to give the DVD player to this dude. I give it to the guy and he's very thankful. I also make sure he gets to the front of the line to check out. This story lacks justice. I worked retail last Black Friday. I was the line supervisor, with 2 other line monitors. Starting at midnight I patrolled the 2 lines non-stop until 9 AM. We just kept talking to everyone, having fun, and bringing them what few shopping totes we could find. In all that time only one person tried to cut into a line. I made them a very simple proposition. Go to the back of the line, or leave your items here and exit the store. To which the lady responded by playing oblivious and looking off into space, avoiding eye contact, so security had to remove her from the property. In fact, I do not understand this common theme and belief of Reddit that nothing can be done if you cut in line, because a store does have a right to refuse you service for pretty much whatever reason they like. The oblivious denial tactic while in plain view. Most people who do that are 5. Today at midnight, John Travolta walked into the retail store I work at. Not a crazy story, but I think it was funny that not any of the other customers even noticed who he was because everyone was in a frenzy shopping to get all the doorbusters. Seemed like a really nice guy. He was just shopping with his wife, Kelly Preston, and kids. I just thought it was odd that John Travolta, being a celebrity and having money, who put himself into crazy situation like shopping on Black Friday. He gave all his money to Scientology. I work in a coffee shop in a mall. A co-worker said he saw 2 old men fighting over a parking spot. Actual fist fight and all. A guy complained to the entire staff that the music was too loud and repeatedly yelled to turn it down. Like I can leave my post and turn the music down when I have a line of 100+ people. I have never actually complained to any store staff, but I really wish stores would keep their music to reasonably low level. If I am having to raise my voice to talk to a person standing next to me, the music may be a bit too loud. I am currently in a stall at my Best Buy contemplating suicide. It's been 11 hours so far, with more to go. I haven't slept in a day and haven't eaten in 14 hours. I can't feel my feet. I don't need a unique or captivating story. Every Black Friday is the worst. It'll all be over soon. I'm Canadian, but I know a girl who is legit spending $300 on a rental car to go drive down to the States in order to buy a 40-inch TV for $170. She seemed incapable of factoring the $300 rental gas price into her equations. I wanted to be like, lady, are you freaking retarded? For $470 I'm pretty sure she could get that 40-inch here. Not to mention there's no freaking way that $170 TV will still be there once she arrives at the back end of the line. Last year I had to run into the local Walmart to pick up some Imodium for my so following a horrendous dinner with the in-laws. Because they were already cattle roped off at 9 PM for the large electronics, I had to be escorted to the pharmacy by a store associate and escorted back out. Next times I'd pay the markup and get it from a gas station. Some years ago, I worked a second job at a local Radio Shack during the holiday season. Black Friday was an all hands on deck sort of day where everyone had to work. The deal at the time was on these tiny remote controlled thingies. If you've been in a Radio Shack, then you can picture the inside of this one. Tiny, boutique kind of place with crap all over the walls mashed in a strip mall between a baby's arse and a nail salon. On this particular Black Friday, the crowds packed this tiny store until one couldn't even move. The mobile phones were all locked in a cage in the back and retrieving them for a sale became a huge chore because you just couldn't get through. The store was packed solid with people. After a few hours of that madness, the crowds finally left, leaving the store like it usually was, empty and sad. It was then that we noticed that somebody stole the crappy demo computer tower that was on one of the end caps, directly in front of the register. The crowds were so thick, they took a lot of crap on the bottom 2 rows of shelves, helping themselves without anyone speaking up or any of us noticing. It was kind of amazing. That Radio Shack sounds like mine, stuck between a small cafe and an office supply store. Working a Circuit City, a person fought through the crush of people in the morning and stood in line for 3 hours to make a return. No purchases. Just wanted to return some dumb iPod clock radio. WTF. Just finished a graveyard shift at Walmart. Was there for 2 of the 3 big sales they have been advertising. The only truly ridiculous thing I witnessed was the kids' pajamas sale. Took about 7 employees to keep customers in line. We formed a barricade of clothing racks around the pallets with an entrance and exit with a clearly marked place to line up. Basically nobody wanted to wait in line. My job for about 2 hours was begging people to stop crawling under the racks to get to the Batman pajamas. 8 hours later and there's still plenty of pajamas left. No reason to get upset. A few complaints about the lines. Duh. Many more thank you for working today comments. Cattle prods. Wife and I were waiting at the front of a line probably 250 people long. Group of 3 people, not in line, walk up to the doors just as it's opening. People in line mumbling but not saying anything. So, I speak up and ask the 3 if they work there or what because a lot of people have been waiting in line for a long time. One of the 3 tells me to grow up and they still push their way inside. Once inside, the one proceeds to do the hip thrust with his hands by his crotch and tells me to suck his dong. I had to work on Thanksgiving and Black Friday weekend on a busy street in Manhattan. It being my first retail job in the city, I was unaware that the streets were going to be barricaded off by the police. No one gave me a heads up to arrive an hour earlier, so I had to fight my way through the crowd just to get ignored by all the officers standing guard. They didn't believe my story, so it took a supervisor with my retail credentials to get me through. Embarrassing. At least I got paid overtime. When I worked at Radio Shack, we had new hours for Black Friday where we were going to stay open later than usual. I was put on a shift that kept me there until store closing. Not a single person came into the store after our usual closing time. I was bored to tears and annoyed that I ended up with this crap shift since I worked commission. The assistant manager there, who was also P, spent his time watching TV and speaking on the phone with his girlfriend. I sat down on the floor, picked up a remote for one of the RC cars and ran it back and forth into the same box over and over until the battery died. That's productivity. My uncle used to be really into Black Friday shopping. He and his wife would sit with the flyers and plot out their whole plan and the order they would go to stores, etc. Since my uncle is 6 feet 5 inches, he generally has few problems getting what he wants. So, when he went out, he would find a little old lady and ask what she was looking for. Normally it was some doorbuster toy that she wanted for her grandkids. When the doors opened, he would go in with the crowd and with his height, long legs, and the fact that no one would bother him because he's huge, he could find the doorbuster fast and he would grab 2 of them and then go back and find the little lady to give it to her. It's not a jerk story, but it always made me feel really proud of my uncle. The other story he told us was about when Cabbage Patch dolls first came out. He went to this little store to get one because they were on sale. When he got to the rack, there was a mad mob of people and standing in front of all the dolls was the managers, with a baseball bat, who managed to get everyone to calm down and pass out the dolls without fistfights or deaths. That first story is awesome. +1 point for humanity. Toys R Us. When Bop Its first came out, I saw an older woman, 60s, and a somewhat younger woman, 40s, reach for the last one at the same time. They then proceeded to get into a tug of war which ended up in the older woman digging her claws into the other woman's forearms so deeply that she actually drew quite a bit of blood. She then disappeared into the crowd with the Bop It, leaving the rest of us, including the woman she had assaulted, just standing there stunned. We later tried to find her amidst the crowd so the officer assigned to our store could deal with the issue, but were never able to. Hope her grandkids knew how serious grandma was about getting that Bop It. I think I win at Bad Black Friday. TL. DR. Purple Heart veteran beaten. Taste. Pepper sprayed. Incarcerated. And bitten by deadly spider on Black Friday. Last year, I had an anxiety attack in the store. I had only been home from Iraq for 3 weeks and had been on the crap end of a few attacks. I had a backpack with me with medications, pain and anxiety, prescribed. I live in a drug town. Police came out after I went outside to get away from people and accused me of stealing. They wanted to search me. I wasn't stealing. I had over $4,000 in cash on me as well as controlled narcotics. I had just bought a car off of a buy here pay here lot in cash and hadn't put the surplus cash back in the bank. The police accused me of being drunk. I wasn't. Then accused me of being on drugs. I wasn't. They made me do a field sobriety test. I have it B from a blast in Iraq. I was having difficulty following them as 3 of them asked me questions simultaneously. They arrested me. They pulled my arm behind my back, and as a natural reaction to my arm being hurt from a rotator cuff injury, I resisted without thinking. They yelled, "Shoot him." I got tased in the neck. The shock of what was happening confused me. I stood still. They tackled me and punched me repeatedly in the head. They tore my shoulder worse to handcuff me. After they placed me inside the car, handcuffed, I swore at them. I cussed them for all they were worth. They pepper sprayed me. I spent Thanksgiving night in jail. The next morning, I had a white pustule on my stomach. I later found out it was a bite from a brown recluse. Court has been postponed several times. I go back the 6th of December. Dude, fight this. Never give up on fighting this. I work at Walmart. Some guy literally hit a 16-year-old girl in the face because he wanted some bedsheets she had for his daughter. People are freaking brutal for no reason. I worked for 5 years at a major Canadian electronics retailer. I have seen things. I have seen the shattered souls of men and women. Piles of wrapped merchandise ripped open by curious matrons spilling printers everywhere the day before. I have seen a co-worker have a nervous breakdown when faced with a line 10 miles long of angry Hutterites while a Chinese woman can't figure out how to use her debit card. I was almost crushed by a rampaging horde of first-generation immigrant Chinese people as they rushed for our one sales guy who could speak Mandarin. I was saved when a former football buddy of mine pulled me up by my shirt and promptly asked where the 299 computer was. This season is cold. This season is heartless. Dang you American Thanksgiving and Black Friday for corrupting this fair season. May I never darken the door of a retailer on that day ever again. TLDR. Retail be crazy. I was almost crushed by a rampaging horde of first-generation immigrant Chinese people as they rushed for our one sales guy who could speak Mandarin. That was beautiful. I'm still giggling. Not me, but a co-worker of mine. Customer was looking through the racks trying to find the right size. When the customer couldn't find it, he knocked down the little sale sign on top of the rack in frustration. My co-worker saw the whole thing. He casually picked up the sign, then tapped the customer on the shoulder and said with the best professional smile he could muster, "I'm sorry, sir. Was this sign bothering you, or did you wish to purchase this?" Shocked and embarrassed, the customer wordlessly shook his head, took the sign from my co-worker, and perched it back on top of the rack. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.